Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Town of Queensbury Planning Board meeting for Thursday, May 20, 2021. This is our second meeting for May and our 11th meeting for this year. It should be noted we were informed as we arrived this evening that for those that are fully vaccinated, a mask is no longer required. So we have an amended COVID protocol that we're following this evening. If you'll note the red exit signs, illuminated signs in the event of an emergency, that is the way out. If you have a cell phone or other electronic device, if you would either turn it off or turn the ringer off, we would appreciate that so it doesn't interrupt our meeting. There are a number of items on our agenda this evening that involve a public hearing, and I will advise those in the audience and the public that we will be taking public comment at that time. And if those watching our meeting on the town YouTube channel would like to phone in when those public meetings or public hearings are called, make note of the number, area code 518-761-8225. That is the number to call in to the telephone here at the planning board meeting, and I will repeat that number as our public hearings occur. With that, we have some administrative items this evening. Some requests for extensions and tabling. The first is Site Plan 15-2020, Steinbeck, request for a one-year extension to June 15, 2022. Laura?
So this applicant hasn't been able to start the project due to COVID, and they're actually looking to do some additional work. So this project may actually come back to this board for an updated for a different plan. So at this point, they'd like to maintain what they're proposing, and they're asking for June of next year.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, they discovered they needed some additional work on the foundation or something, I guess, yeah.
Correct.
So, very good. Anyone have any questions or concerns with granting Steinbeck an extension until June of next year? Okay, I think we have a draft resolution to that effect.
Motion to approve a one-year extension for Frank and Aaron Steinbach.
Second.
To June 15, 2022.
I don't have it here. Oh, there it is. Yes, it is, right on top. To June 15th, 2022.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any questions on the motion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Dutkowsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. All right, thank you. Next, we have Site Plan 48-2021 for Prendeville, a request for tabling until September 28. Laura?
So this is the second meeting in September because they need to go back in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And at this time, it's best for them to move it to September due to health issues.
Okay. All right, anyone have any questions on that?
Nope.
All right, and we have a draft resolution, I believe.
Motion to table Site Plan 48-2020, Mark Prendeville, table until the September 28th, 2021 Planning Board meeting with information due by August 15th, 2021.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? Maria, can you call the vote for us,
Mr.
please?
Schaefer? Mr. Schaefer?
She said she, yes. Sorry.
Mr. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Dutkowsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. And next we have Site Plan 21-2020 for Hartman. They're requesting a tabling to September 21. Laura?
Yes. So this application has never received planning board recommendation. However, he understands what he needs to do, but he hasn't had an opportunity to set up and respond to engineering comments. So in turn, he's asked for tabling to September. I do think this board may want to further discuss that in September, maybe have the applicant come in at that time to determine if we need to deny this without prejudice or if he's able to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? request? Okay, I think we have a draft resolution.
Motion to table site plan 21-2020 David Hartman until the September 21st, 2021 Planning Board meeting with information due by August 16th, 2021.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Hunziker,
Yes.
Mr. Dutkowsky,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mr. Deeb,
Yes?
Ms. White,
yes,
Mr. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Traver,
Yes. Next, we move to the regular agenda, the first section being tabled items. And the first item is under unapproved development, Jeffrey Godnick, site plan 49-2020. Laura?
So this application received a variance approval last evening in reference to maintaining a 188-square-foot shed. There were some items that were brought up in reference to setbacks. So the shed is located 3.9 feet from the side setback and 44 feet from the shoreline. The zoning board had tabled it previously to request from updating the permeability. They've done that. They went from 64% to 65.8%. And additionally, they understand that they granted a relief for the floor area and the permeability in total. So at this point, this back in front of this board to maintain a 188-square-foot shed.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, John Lapper. This was just sort of a neighbor-neighbor issue. The shed acts kind of as a buffer between the two sites. It's painted green, it's next to a hedgerow. The site's very nicely landscaped, so we're not proposing any changes, but as Laura said, the zoning board asked for it to be more permeable, and that was the change that got the zoning board approval last night. So I'm sure you've all
Okay.
seen the site. It's
So, as a result of the review with the ZBA, were there any changes to the plan that we looked at?
No.
Okay. All right. Questions, comments from members of the board?
I have one. John, you got better looking over last year without your mask.
now it feels weird not to wear a mask.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be a while before
Wow.
things are back to
Seeing your
normal.
face, holy cow.
All right. Well, if there are no questions or concerns, I believe we have a draft resolution.
Motion to approve.
Prior to you doing that, just, you did have a public hearing that
Oh,
left
thank you.
open.
I had to have my, forget the public hearing
It was
thing for
going too
tonight.
fast.
You gotta have one more.
Yeah, at least one a night.
first one.
So my apologies. So this is subject to public hearing. I will ask people that are viewing us by telephone if they wish to call in and comment by public hearing. I'll repeat that number, area code 518-761-8225. And I'll ask Laura, are there any written comments?
So I'll identify that there was written comment back in October of 2020, and since it did not make a public hearing presence in the site plan review, I'm just going to highlight some of the information.
Sure.
So there's a letter from the Caffrey's office and signed by Amanda Kukley. She represents one of the interested party, Aaron McNeil. They were concerned in reference to the setback issues, the permeability, and the fact that it was done without approvals. And then I have a letter from Margaret Chapa of 308 Glen Lake Road that was in support of the shed.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to comment on this application before the board tonight? Not seeing anyone. We haven't received any phone calls, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing that I forgot to open. And we can hear a resolution now.
Motion to approve site plan 49-2020 Jeffrey Godnick, according to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through K.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hensinger?
Yes.
Mr. Chakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, yep.
Good job, see you.
Next under tabled items, we have Trevor Flynn. I understand this application is to be tabled, Laura?
That's correct. The zoning board had some questions in regards to the second garage, and so the applicant is going back and taking a look at what they can do on the site. And so I've asked that the board table it to the second meeting in June. So
June
that they can-
22nd.
The 22nd, so that they can attend and have the zoning board review it at the zoning board's first meeting in June.
Okay. Well, we will then be tabling this, and we'll let folks know that we will be opening the public hearing tonight, and this will be tabled, and we'll be taking public comment on June 22nd for those who wish to offer it. And we have a resolution to table.
Motion to table site plan 9-2021 Trevor Flynn D. Grass Meter to the June 22nd, 2021 Planning Board meeting.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Abstain?
Mr. Hensinger?
Yes.
Mr. Chakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. All right, thank you. Let's see. Next, we move to the section of our agenda under old business. And the first item is John Graziano, site plan 30-2021. Laura?
Okay. So this application includes an addition to an existing 1,900 square foot home, which has a floor area of 3,137 square feet. This addition is a two-story addition of 886 square feet, a single-story addition of 124 square feet, and covering the existing front porch of 344 square feet. The Zoning Board of Appeals did grant the variance. It was in reference to setbacks on the north side, in reference to the two-story addition as well as the covered porch. And there is no other comment.
Okay, thank you. There is a public hearing on this application, so we'll go ahead and open that up early to allow people to call in if they wish to comment on Graziano site plan 30-2021. The phone number to call is area code 518-761-8225. Good evening.
Good evening. Nick Zeglin with Environmental Design Partnership, here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. John Graziano. The applicant is proposing site improvements at their residence at 195 Assembly Point Road. The site improvements consist of a attached garage addition on the west side of the house, as well as a master bathroom bump out off the existing master bedroom, and a covered porch off the front of the house. As Laura said, this project was before the zoning board last night and received a variance for the side yard setback. Additional site improvements consist of a new wastewater system with a Claris enhanced treatment unit, as well as on-site stormwater management. There'll be a drip edge infiltration to treat some of the new garage roof, as well as a rain garden to treat the remaining new roof, as well as most of the existing roof. The applicant is also proposing to remove about 1,600 square feet of their existing asphalt driveway and replace that with permeable block pavers to help improve imperviousness on the site and added stormwater management above what's required. And lastly, there was an existing shed that was on the southern property line that will be moved to be within all the setbacks on the site and alleviate any issues with that. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to the board for any comments. Thank you.
Okay, so in your review with the ZBA, were there any changes made to the plan that we reviewed previously?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from members of the board?
One of the items that came up on Tuesday night was the floodlight.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about making sure that they had a cutoff.
Yeah, we'll make sure that the floodlight has a cutoff and it's downward facing and
Okay.
compliant. Yep.
Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to address the planning board on this application for the public hearing this evening? Not seeing anyone. Laura, are there any written comments?
There are written comments. I have one from the Lake George Waterkeeper. I'll get to it. The waterkeeper recommends to capture runoff from the existing driveway to improve water quality. Stormwater runoff onto and from Assembly Point is a community-wide problem that impacts Lake George, and the applicant could install a device to convey a portion of the driveway to the existing landscape areas for stormwater management, which could establish a standard along Assembly Point Road. The applicant should clarify whether sidewalks will be added to the front stairs for access and include these impervious services and permeability calculations. And then there were questions in regards to the septic system. The office should be considered as a bedroom, and as I explained in the past, the septic system will be reviewed by our Building and Codes Department.
Right. So stormwater from the driveway, what's the status with that? Can that be improved?
So we did look at that when we were putting in the permeable block pavers, and we didn't put pavers in that section because it's steep there, so the water would still just kind of sheet flow down the driveway and not really infiltrate through the pavers. And then we did look at stormwater down where the waterkeeper's talking about, but if you look at the site now, it kind of sheet flows off that driveway and down through the grass, down to that low-lying depression area where that landscaping is. So if we were to design, the best practice would be to put something like that in and put in some kind of shallow depression with some plantings and stuff, which is what's down there now, and it just didn't seem like it would make sense to go in there and tear up all that vegetated area and grass to put in a device that's similar to what's there now.
So there's a device there now.
I wouldn't, it's a low-lying grassy area, which is what a lot of the stormwater that we do around the lake is, shallow grass depression. And if it were to overflow, it would overflow into the landscape area, which is mulched and has plantings and everything now.
So your feeling is that there should be no runoff going into the lake from the driveway section?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So there is another public comment, so I'll read that one now.
Okay.
So it says, to whom it may concern, I, I'm going to say this incorrectly, Robert Carbagonen, am the owner of 197 Assembly Point Road. My property abuts John Graziano's lot on the north side. This is the side of the proposed addition to requiring a variance due to lack of the side yard setback. I have no issue with the proposed addition. I wish him well on his construction project and hope the board will approve it.
Okay, thank you.
So you feel a vegetative area is enough to handle the runoff then,
Yes, yep,
of what's there?
of what's there, yes.
You don't think you have to add anything more to it?
Right, we're not adding any impervious, we're actually reducing impervious. So all that driveway that's up above that would normally sheet flow down, the flat area is all permeable pavers now, so that's going to infiltrate right through, and there'll be even less runoff going down the driveway.
Well, there is no additional public comment, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this application. And if there are no other questions for the applicant representative, I guess we have a resolution to.
Do you want to put code compliant lighting as
Yes.
an amendment to the, okay. Motion to approve site plan 30-2021, John Graziano, according to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of the approval before the 1-year timeframe has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through K and L, lighting to be code compliant.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Chakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes?
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Trevor?
Yes. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Next, under old business, we have Sanssouci Site Plan 33-2021 and Special Use Permit 2-2021. The understanding is this item is to be tabled to July the July 27th meeting. Laura?
Yep, so this application was before the zoning board of appeals last evening, and the zoning board requested it, or the applicant requested it to be tabled to reconfigure or to evaluate the outdoor eating area and the parking request for relief. And so the application is being tabled to the second planning board meeting so the zoning board can take a look at it on the 21st. So this is a July meeting.
Okay. All right, so we will be tabling this item to the July 27th meeting in anticipation of review, I guess, the night before by the ZBA. So we will open the public hearing on this application and leave it open for when it returns to us in July. Any questions, comments from members of the board? Okay. All right, I guess we have a resolution.
Motion to table site plan 33-2021 and special use permit 2-2021, 333 Cleverdale LLC, Sam Susi, to the July 27th, 2021 Planning Board meeting with information due by June 15th, 2021.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Kukowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Dees?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. Next, under old business, we have Town Fair Tire, site plan 32-2021. Laura?
So that application is to remove the existing 2,040 square foot building to construct a new 7,269 square foot tire sales and service facility. The zoning board of appeals granted the setback relief for the front of the building at the, to allow for a 57.4 feet setback to the front property line where a 75-foot setback is required. There was a condition that additional sound attenuation be added to the west property side, and the zoning board was hoping that you would, the planning board would come up with sort of a solution, and the zoning board at last night's meeting suggested some fabric or some material be placed on the fence itself. And so since the board wasn't deciding on a particular item, they were hoping that the planning board could come up with something, whether that be something, a additional fencing, whether that's additional plantings, or whether that's something to do with the building. And you can have further discussion, and I understand the applicant may have additional information that will assist that.
Okay, very good, thank you. Also, I will alert the public that we do have a public hearing on this application. And if you wish to call in and make public comment, the number to call is area code 518-761-8225. Good evening.
Good evening. Again, for the record, John Lapper with Rob Osterhout, the project engineer from Bowler Engineering, and John Wipkowski is here on behalf of the applicant. As we discussed that Monday night when you made the recommendation, and then last night the zoning board did unanimously approve the variance because it's a little closer to the road than what code requires, but that moves it away from the neighbors in the rear. So as Laura mentioned, a number of neighbors were there last night, and they were concerned about noise because it's a tire business. But as I explained to you last time, and John could get into more detail, this is different than other tire distributors that we know in the area. For one reason, it's air conditioned, so the doors will always be closed, and the compressors that they use, everything is made to minimize sound. And John, again, can get more into that on the record. So we were expecting to come and talk about the buffer in the back and adding some more to what's on the proposal, but we're coming in with a fence and vegetation proposed, and we'll talk about what's appropriate. But it's a nice, clean, neat, new site that's going to be different than what we're used to in terms of tire facilities in the area.
So really the outstanding item that we have to consider is the sound, the additional sound buffering that the ZBA and the public was concerned about.
Yes.
Okay.
We think the public's concern was understandable but sort of misplaced because this type of operation with the doors closed is very different than if you're doing repairs, and they don't do repairs, as I mentioned, it's just installing tires and
Right.
wheels and alignments, so. not-
So with that concern and that condition, have you come up with a proposal for mitigating the sound?
Good evening. Rob Osterhout from Bowler Engineering.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good to be back. So as far as the sound is concerned, we were looking at that as something that could probably be attenuated with plantings. There was a recommendation about putting something on the fence, but we had a concern with having something on the fence that might not be UV, or might be UV reactive, might break down, it might cause more of an eyesore in the long term. So we were looking at this from a natural perspective, maybe adding some additional plantings that would help with noise attenuation. We do have a 6-foot-high wood stockade privacy fence proposed along the southerly boundary and along the westerly boundary. That's 6 foot high, and the grades of our site are much lower than the adjoining properties to the south and to the west. Anywhere from, if you look at the plan on the screen here, on the southerly property line, which is the bottom of the page, you see that little jog in the property line. Right there, the grade change from the property line down to the parking lot is roughly 2.5 feet. And then as you get over to the left side of that drawing, same lower section of the parking lot, there's about an 11-foot grade change there. And then on the west side, it's even more. It's up to 15, 17, 18 feet on the west side, depending on where you are. So there is quite a bit of grade change. The property and the building and everything will be much lower than that property to the south and to the west. So that, coupled with the fence and plantings, we feel there's a natural type of resource that we can use for sound attenuation. The fencing, I mentioned we're proposing a 6-foot fence. There was some discussion about, I spoke with a couple of the neighbors after the meeting about maybe going to a larger fence. We talked about an 8-foot-high fence. I think that's a good option. We briefly talked about maybe something even larger, like a 10-foot fence. And personally, I've seen those installed, and a 10-foot fence is really large. My personal opinion is I would feel like I'm in a prison if I had a 10-foot fence, along my property. But I think, maybe an 8-foot fence with additional plantings might be a good solution here. That's
Do you
about
have a specific proposal regarding plantings, location and type and numbers and so on?
Yes, right now, what we're showing on the plans is the 6-foot fence along the property line. And then just inside of that fence, the plans currently show arborvitaes. We've been discussing the planting selection with some of our landscape architects. And because of the existing vegetation, it's a very high, pine, canopy here. We've got very large existing trees. So there is a canopy over top of where we're going to have to put these new plantings. And we're concerned that the arborvitaes might not be the best selection because they're not going to get sun. They typically need sun. Deer is another issue with the arborvitae, although there are species of arborvitae that are somewhat deer resistant. So we talked about some other options. White pine was another option, but there were some concerns at the zoning board about maybe white pines because as they grow, their greenery is, again, high and doesn't keep, down low towards the top of the fence. The only other evergreen species that we came up with as a potential solution would be a hemlock. And right now, all up and down the eastern seaboard, there's an infestation of bugs that are killing off hemlocks, and we don't even know if we could get hemlocks at a nursery at this point. And then there's always deciduous trees. That would be an option too. So we've got several different options. We wanted to talk about those with the board tonight and, come up with some mutually agreeable solution here.
Okay.
Before we get into that, what are your hours of operation?
Hours of operation are, and just in general, this use is a lot different from the Pizza Hut use in that, traffic isn't going to be as much. The hours of operation are less. There's no odors from cooking. there's a lot of benefits here for this type of use. It's a very low-key use. The hours of operation are typically Monday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Saturday, 8 to 4 p.m., and closed on Sundays.
Seems very reasonable.
Those are reasons.
Yeah, again, those hours are much less than what a restaurant could be.
Yeah.
So, other than having a discussion about the sound attenuation, were there any other changes to your project as a result of the ZBA? Okay.
No.
All right, questions, comments from members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to note, we did receive comments from Chazen regarding the stormwater review. So what we did was we burned some midnight oil. We got that letter a few days ago. We wound up revising our plans and our stormwater report to address those comments, and we just hand-delivered those plans and the report and the response to comments letter to Laura this afternoon.
And an engineering sign-off is required, so at this point, after reviewing those comments and your response, you feel comfortable that you can accomplish all those?
Yeah, we feel comfortable that we've addressed those. I'm sure there'll, probably be some minor comments that, might be spurred on from additional review. But we have no problem. We've worked with Jason many, many times, in this town and others. So.
Okay.
They were pretty benign comments.
Yeah, there's nothing too crazy in the comments.
So getting back to the sound issue, we'll open it up to other members of the board. I do like the idea of maybe bumping it up to 8 feet. I agree with you that 10 is a bit excessive, especially with the height variance that's there. So how do other board members feel about that?
I suggest that first one, but I think it's a good idea to go to 8, but I think we have to settle on what the plannings are going to be
Yeah,
for the resolution.
yeah.
If I understood the fence itself, so along that back wall, the fence will be set back X number of feet?
Yes, I can show you right here on, so here's the edge of our parking lot on the south side, edge of our parking lot on the west side. And then you've got anywhere from 16 feet here to the property line, 25 feet here, and 50 along the back. So the fence would be right along the property line. There's a chain link fence there today. The plan is to remove that chain link fence and put up the new 6-foot high, or now 8-foot high, wood, privacy fence in that same location. So we don't have to clear trees, put the new fence in, and it would be a solid screen versus the chain link that's there today. The chain link that's there today does not have privacy slats in it. It's just an open, a normal chain link fence. So the fencing would be here, the plantings would be just inside that, and the grade change, like I said, is higher here and here than it is down here at the site.
I guess then on the southern side, you weren't necessarily dismissing hemlocks, but those can get some size to them.
Yeah.
Maybe you consider those on the southern side, and on the western side, you go with other plantings of your choice that fit in there. I think it's a great idea.
The hemlock?
But the hemlocks and some other evergreens mixed in with there. But a couple of questions. So on the site plan itself, there's really not a lot of trees or greenery near the building. Any thought, consideration to anything there to help knock the noise down before it even makes it way over there?
So the biggest, thing with this type of facility is obviously the service bays and any noise that can come from that. But given that Town Fair Tire operates much differently than other tire centers, and those doors will be closed, think about it, they're going to have air-conditioned and heated space for their employees to work on the cars. They're not going to have those doors open and waste, all of that energy and run their mechanical systems to treat, air with the doors open. So they'll be opening those doors to bring cars in and out. Other than that, they'll be closed. So that really takes care of most of the noise. The compressors that are used here by Town Fair Tire are such that they operate at a very low noise level. So you can have conversations near the compressors. You're not going to be walking away to try and have a conversation. So the operations of Town Fair Tire, which John can even speak to more if there's further questions, goes a long way with reducing the noise here. As far as plantings around the building, that back area is set up so that we can maneuver the cars in and out of those service bays. To have any islands or have additional plantings back there near the building would be difficult. We do have the interior green space provided around the site, and towards the front of the building, we do have the green space there next to the building to help, attenuate sound and to liven up the site, beautify the site.
And on your site plan, not necessarily on the back of the property, because I do think that the fence is an improvement. I'd like to see maybe consideration for vinyl versus wood, only because wood, how long is it going to last for? Are you going to upkeep it?
Well, it's usually treated, I think, for those type of fences.
I don't know if there's any additional plantings down along Route 9. Not that it's going to change the noise coming from your building, but you actually improve the neighborhood behind you by sheltering it from some of the noise from Route 9. Maybe it's a compromise.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd just like to talk to my client for a moment, because I have an idea that I'd just like to look back in.
John, the fence will be on the west side as well?
Yes.
What is the topography back there where those pine trees are?
This is where,
Is it fairly level?
no, this is where it's 11 to 18 feet above. The house is way up high above the site.
It's a steep bank in back.
Yeah.
It's so high that there's a concrete retaining wall at the bottom of the parking lot.
So if it was pine trees, it would take a long time for those pine trees that are setting lower to get up higher than an 8-foot fence.
Yeah, but 8 foot's a pretty good start on the fence.
Yeah.
So, just in talking with my client in response to your, question about adding some additional plantings, what we can do is where we've got the plantings proposed along the fence, we've got a single row of plantings proposed, so we've got 50 trees that were proposed along the west and the south side. We could double up that row and have 2 rows of plantings offset, staggered. Yeah, so that, it blocks visibility and it also provides a better screen.
So from 50 to 100 trees.
So the only question is what species?
Yep, that's right. Your idea about mixing it up, I think, is a good idea. The availability of the hemlocks is really not something that we control. That's going to be a market-driven decision. I think that's, if it's something that's available, that we could, intersperse some hemlocks in there. What are the board's feelings on white pine as an option? And then the arborvitae that we're showing right now, we do have a concern about the longevity of those plantings, just given that there's not going to be a lot of sunlight there with the existing canopy. So, they may not be a good choice for the long term.
So there is an approved planting list in our town code. So in turn, if the board thought about doing using the term evergreen and deciduous and some shrubbery, I think that would give you at least the opportunity to select from the DEC-approved native planting species. So that's up to the board, but that does give some flexibility so that you're not searching for hemlocks when you can't find them.
So for purposes of our conditioning this, we could say increase the number of plantings from 50 to 100, selecting species from the town provided list.
A mix of deciduous and evergreen?
Yeah,
I like that idea. A mix.
people feel okay about that?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone in the, I'm sorry?
Steve?
I gotta admit, requiring the applicant to put in 100 trees, 100 in this relatively small parcel, plus the canopy that's already there, it just seems 100 trees. It's a lot. I mean, what, every 3 feet? I mean, along that row, how are they gonna grow and be healthy to have that many concentrated in that relatively small?
Well, if some of them don't
area?
survive and you start with 100,
I don't disagree, but, are we gonna obligate them to 100, or are we gonna obligate them to what survives of 100? Because somebody could come back 10 years from now and say, oh, they don't have 100 trees. They've gotta make sure they have 100 trees.
well, if that happens, I guess we'll worry about it at the time.
So if there was a couple of things, I'm not quite sure that I mentioned it at the beginning, I did mention it maybe earlier in the planning board recommendation, was that there was a cutting that occurred without approvals. So there was an area in this, in the back corner that was already cut. So in this case, he's repairing something that was
Right.
cut. So he's rectifying a violation
And that's included in what the number
with
two
this.
that they
And then
put
if
there.
you were, and I know you used the word tree, but maybe that because we used the word a mixed, either a tree, a shrubbery, you know, there's a mix there, so it doesn't have to always be a tree.
But when you were describing what you were suggesting off the approved list, and you mentioned shrubbery, that's what made me think, do we want 100 trees, or is it gonna be okay to have the shrubbery counted as plantings?
Right, so I'm just gonna take a quick look at our landscaping buffering and just confirm that there is a mix of what the landscaping list consists of. So give me a few seconds.
Mr. Chairman, I will say, having looked at the property, that western side, that wall is immense already. That
Yep.
with an 8-foot, I am not overly concerned about the noise as much. I think limited plantings without being punitive in any way, or feeling that way. And I'll just throw out, as I said on Tuesday, I did have an opportunity to see one of the sites, and as I was driving by, you wouldn't even know that it was open. All the doors were closed, it was quiet, it was impressive. And
Yeah.
certainly an improvement to that lot.
Oh, yeah.
Getting rid of the Pizza Hut, and thank goodness the old Long John Silver's no longer there.
That's right.
And the odors won't be there.
Yes.
Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to address the planning board on this application? Yes, sir. We have at least one person in the audience who wants to make public comment. Good evening.
My name's Brad Patch. I live right in the middle of all this. Back in '75, when the Pizza Hut went in, we were given a lifetime buffer of 50 feet. This project here is going to take away about 35, 40 feet of that buffer on the south side. Do you guys realize that?
We're aware of the buffer that they're proposing, yeah.
Are you aware of the buffer that's there right now? It was clear cut, and so half of it's clear cut.
Yeah, and you started by saying something about you were, in the 70s, you were assured of a 50, where did that come from?
I believe Mr. Eddy was the head of the board at the time, the planning board, and he gave us a lifetime buffer of 50 feet.
I don't think we, as a body, can grant a lifetime buffer.
Or
I mean,
forever.
right.
Yeah,
Because
choose the word.
applicants, the property can change hands, and an applicant come in with a site plan application as this one has,
Yeah.
and it is subject to review, but whatever buffer they propose is up to review, in this
It's like a
case, the zoning
10-foot
board.
buffer is what they propose. You're taking away about 35, 40 feet. Put up a fence, yeah, okay, that's nice, and plant behind it. You got 10 feet or so of where you can plant. You're gonna put in like a hedge? I'm not gonna be able to see that. That's not gonna help me.
Well, the plantings, as I understand it, are on the buildings, the project side of the fence, not on the other side.
Yeah. But they
And
have
they're
to put
primarily
back.
for sound attenuation, not visible. The reason they put the privacy fences there is to reduce the visibility issue. Because right now, there's just a chain link that you can see right through.
Yep.
So by putting up the 8-foot privacy fence, you're not going to be able to see. The visibility impact will be eliminated.
Okay, if you say so. Have you guys gone there and looked at this property?
We have,
Okay,
So you're talking about the southern border?
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm just not happy with losing 35, 40 feet of buffer. All because they're putting in a building that's 3 times what's there with a drive on the opposite side, so it pushes everything this way, and it won't work without them wrecking up the buffer. And it doesn't seem that they have to do that. Okay?
Well, I appreciate your concern. Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Blair Davies. I live at number 15 Greenway Drive. I'm on the west boundary of this. I'm glad you're talking about an 8-foot fence. Currently, there's a 6-foot chain link fence, so today, for my idea was I took a 8-foot board down there, leaned it up against the fence. I went up. Now, they're true, it's quite a drop-off down there, but my house sits up high, so I can see Pizza Hut. I got a pretty good view of Home Depot. Not that I want it. An 8-foot fence is definitely going to be a lot better than a 6-foot fence.
Right.
Hopefully, it's going to help with noise. I understand they're going to have the doors closed, but that's, of course, as long as they're there. Once the building's there, if they decide after 5 years we're leaving, and Joe Smiley's Hot Rod Shop goes in there.
That would be another, that would be subject to review.
Right, we'll
Yeah.
cross that bridge when we get to it, but definitely the 8-foot fence. I actually measured the fence next door behind the Harbor Freight. That's about a 9-foot fence that's there. It's
And the
vinyl
bank
or
is
whatever.
significantly larger there too, I think.
Yeah, I think they had to go for that because if I recall correctly, their setback, they built so far back, I think they're 12.5 feet from the property line, which is why they went, I guess it's about a 9-foot fence, which part of it did blow down with all those windstorms we had. So that is high, but 8-foot fence would definitely be a big improvement over a 6-foot fence.
And privacy versus chain link.
Yep. And whatever they want to do is wood or vinyl or whatever is great. Lights we'll deal with. We live in a noisy neighborhood. I mean, we got Route 9 on the one side, you got Aviation Road on the other, you got I-87, and then the cherry on top is a Walmart Supercenter. So
Yeah.
kind of in the little bubble right there, so you kind of get used to it. But I'm glad they're actually putting in something, because right now I live next to a vacant building, and that's not a good thing.
Right.
So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wanted to speak to the planning board on this application? Not seeing anyone. We haven't received any phone calls. Are there any written comments, Laura?
There are written comments, and I believe, Mr. Patch, you already read, I mean, do you want me to read? I can read it into the record, but you've already spoken. And that's the only one.
And again, Laura, if I could ask you to speak closer to the microphone. It is starting to get hard to hear you again.
So,
Maybe the batteries are getting low in my hearing aids.
no, that's all right, it's me. So, Mr. Patch had, his daughter had written a letter on his behalf because he wasn't certain he was going to be here tonight. So he did speak at the mic, and he's okay with his comments that he's provided to you in reference to the buffer.
Okay. And the letter will also be entered in the record, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well then we'll close the public hearing. We'll go back to the board for questions, comments for the applicant.
The southern buffer is code compliant, obviously.
Right, so in our, obviously landscaping is a discussion item, there's no requirement. If the board wishes to have a buffer that contains a mix of evergreens, deciduous, and shrubs, and you would like to make that a condition with a numerical value, that's the most helpful for code compliance to confirm that they've planted X amount of plantings on the site.
Yeah,
The
we're talking
applicant,
about 100 total.
100 total, so I mean, it could be a mix of all three elements.
Yep.
What's the measurement that's needed?
3-inch diameter.
So you're required to
No, I'm
maintain.
talking about the distance.
So you're required to maintain a 50-foot buffer between a commercial use and a residential use, and that goes on both sides.
So there's going to be a minimum 50-foot buffer.
No, there is not. So this is where the applicant is asking for a waiver in the sense that he would like to have instead of a 50-foot buffer, they're proposing an 8-foot fence, as well as having 100 planted species, whether that be deciduous, evergreens, or shrubs.
Other questions, comments from members of the board for the applicant? Hearing none, I guess we're ready for recommendation.
Is everyone comfortable with that southern border? I mean, we've often used privacy fences as a way to mitigate the distance. And
In this case, we have that plus plantings.
Yeah, I guess in my own thinking, if you have an 8-foot privacy fence at the property line, it's not going to make much difference if it's 16 foot or 50 foot, because all
Right.
you're going to see is the privacy fence and the trees above it.
This is going to be 30 feet.
So just a
What's the
reminder,
minimum buffer on the southern boundary line?
it's still against a residential use, so that would
Right.
be, 50 would be required. So you'd also have to take into account the applicant would have to come up with this, is reference to the zoning board of appeals asked for a sound attenuation. So going from a 6-foot fence to an 8-foot fence would qualify, and however, I think the additional plantings are what we were looking for. The board may consider doing, maybe making a percentage of those 100 be trees or something. I don't quite know which would be better, but you might want to give a percentage so that it's not just low shrubbery.
That's absolutely fine, whatever the board's comfortable with. Specify the number of trees versus shrubs.
I just wanted to answer your question.
Yeah,
Mr.
thank you.
Musker. You asked what the minimum
Yeah.
buffer would be. So right here on the southerly property line where we have that jog,
Yeah,
so that's the tightest point, and that's 16 feet and
that's
change.
what I thought you said, yes.
Yep, and then it goes to 25 feet here. And I'd also like to point out that this is the existing retaining wall right here.
Mhm.
So there's less than 50 feet out there today.
That's
We're
what I
kind of
thought.
matching that
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
And
All right,
a
well-
planted island at the narrowest point, too.
That's
Yeah.
right.
What was Pizza Hut's?
Same.
Was it the same?
Yeah, same.
So you are changing.
No,
It's the
that's
same in this area. This is where it's changing right now.
That's where the retaining wall is up front.
Okay.
You know, as minor as it sounds, that one small planting bed that you have there, proposed interior planting island, the southernmost right there in the middle,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any value even, can you make it bigger and still be code compliant with the number of parking spots? Or shift it to my left, which would be your right, shift it to the west, to gain a little bit more and make sure that there's at least a tree of some sort, so over time, there'd be a little bit more maturity to it.
Yeah, I think, we do want to maintain the parking count that we have, but that's a good idea, I think, to shift that a little bit, so it's, kind of right in line with that jog in the property line.
Yeah, because right now, it's right
Yeah.
next to, I think, is that
I think
Mr.
that's
B's?
You want to shift it a whole width of the space, you don't lose a spot.
Yeah, exactly, so we can shift it over 9 feet, and then it'll line up pretty close to that jog in the property line and provide better buffer right there.
And I'm not telling you that you should, I'm just throwing
That's
that out
agreeable.
I
as
like
a
it.
thought.
Yeah, that's fine.
But what, one of the questions that comes to mind as we're talking about this, because it sounds like there's concern about traffic, noise. How many customers are you expecting in there at any given time?
John, would you like to address that?
I can't imagine it being as many as Pizza Hut.
John We do get an influx.
Could you get on the mic, sir, and state your name for the record for our minutes, please? Thank you.
It's John Wipachowski for Town Fair. So we do get several customers and we call drop-off cars and everything's by appointment. So we tend to have parking spaces. And then, of course, when it snows, all of a sudden people are scrambling to get, tires. So we just try to accommodate everyone. Plus, we got 10 to 15 employees that have to park there as well, so.
But the traffic won't be going in and out, they'll be picking up their cars.
Yeah, our
times.
inflow of traffic
Yeah,
is
it's-
very slow. It's just that, you may get a rush at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
People get there at 7:30. and
It's not gonna be like Pizza Hut, it used to be a real problem getting in and out of
We're
there.
sort of against everyone's hours.
Yeah.
Even in, our time is like April to May is busy because they're taking the snow tires off, and then September to October, they're putting the snow tires on. So we're against the busy summer traffic. Opposite that.
Thank you.
Okay, so
All right.
the discussion you had with Board Member Dixon on adjusting the jog and we need to codify that for our.
9 feet to the west.
So we would shift this landscaped island 9 feet to the west.
I can't see it, the job sign.
There you go.
That's-
They're talking about this.
Gonna move that.
Yep.
We're going to move it 9 feet in this direction.
So it lines up better with that jog in the property line and provides a better buffer where that jog is.
So it's the southern central landscape feature to be moved 9 feet to the west.
And now we just gotta get on the percentage, or I've written down that, excuse me, we include evergreens and deciduous chosen from our approved list, but I don't have a number. I'm gonna say from 50 to 100 plantings. Doesn't mean it means trees and, but I don't know if the board's comfortable with that, or do they want percentages?
Well, the thought was that we want to have a percentage that are specifically trees and not bushes, right?
If you got 100, you certainly need to put a number, you don't need a percentage.
Yeah.
It's,
33 and a third.
Could provide like a minimum. We were gonna do 50 trees, maybe, maybe it is, a minimum number.
You're gonna do 50 trees,
The original.
so why don't we leave it at 50 trees, and then the balance to be done with deciduous and evergreens
Shrub.
and shrubs. Is that all right?
That works.
Now, let's see if I can get this into wording now.
Huh.
See how-
All right, so you
see how
have-
hard to make my job, Ken?
I am impressed, though, that you want to be a good neighbor to.
Oh, it's just wonderful the way you cooperate, man.
Very nice.
Town Fair runs a very nice operation. I think you'll be pleased with the
I-
operation.
Can't wait for them to join the community.
So do we have a draft resolution?
I'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes.
And
Okay.
I think first I need to
Okay,
close the public hearing if I didn't
Yes.
already.
I don't know if you did or not, so long ago. Did he close public hearing?
Yeah.
He did. Okay. Motion to approve site plan 32-2021, Town Fair Tire. According to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the letter, follow-up letter sent with the resolution, including items A through K. L, additional sound attenuation to be added to the west side of the property with an 8-foot stockade fence along the southern and western border.
Yep.
Also, I'm going to say M, 50-foot buffer of trees, 50-foot trees. 50 trees to be planted along the border with the southern and western border, with the balance of 50 plantings,
50 additional plants.
50 additional plantings to be included with evergreens and deciduous and various shrubs approved by the town list, whatever it is at. You okay with that?
Sounds good to me. Do we have a second?
Oh, actually, did we?
Oh, I forgot, south
right,
central
that's right,
landscape
sorry.
plot to be, N.
Close, we're close.
South central landscape plot to be moved 9 feet to the west.
Okay.
I think we covered it.
Now do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, John, thank you, John. Any further discussion? Marie, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Teague?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Kanzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Chakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
In favor?
Yes. You're all set.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you all for your time
Do you
tonight.
want these drawings?
We'll take them if you want. We'll recycle.
Oh, you may,
We can recycle them here. I
them.
just-
Okay, yeah, if you want to just throw them in
you
your
don't
bag.
have to send them back.
Yeah, we use them for day cover at the landfill.
They used to, I bet. Back in the old
Yeah.
days.
What did he get a sense of humor?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Stoic. Holy cow. was an interesting one. I thought that was just going to be cut and dry.
Yeah.
I just thought we were going to get back to it.
Next item on our agenda is under old business, and this is Stephen A. Burnett, trustee. This is also unapproved development. Site plan 28-2021. Laura?
Okay. So this application is to complete work on the existing 1.5-story cabin. The existing cabin footprint is 1,365 and is proposed at 1,312 square feet. As mentioned previously, this was under a stop work order. There was a northern portion of the building that was damaged, which is why there is an existing footprint and a proposed footprint. It was existing, however, it was damaged, so it was removed, so now it's proposed. So that was 132 square feet. The variance for this side, the setback was granted at the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the project includes, obviously, alterations to the main floor, interior alterations to the basement area for usable living space, new slider doors in the basement area, installation of stepping stones, infiltration trench areas to the north side of the building, a new entry roof area, a new septic system, and the deck area was, for the new entry has been removed and now is being replaced with a smaller deck.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, welcome back.
Good evening, Tom Hutchins, here on behalf of Stephen Burnett and the Burnett Family Trust. I won't go through the whole story again. This site has 2 residences from the early 1900s, and one needs to be repaired. And some work was begun on it. They are under stop work order, and we're here. We went to the zoning board last night and received the variance. We're asking for 2 feet of relief from a 25-foot side setback, so it wasn't extreme. We're rebuilding on the same footprint, although the interior is a little different. That's why the numbers are a little bit different. We've taken out a good-sized chunk of asphalt, removed it from the site, gone permeable with it. We got a net reduction in impervious, net increase in permeability. Small, although an increase, and a new septic system. So what they'd like to do is move on and repair this building. So we look for your support. Thank you.
Did you, in your review with ZBA, were there any changes to your project from what we reviewed?
No.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of the board?
Tom, you commented on the septic system for the other house the other night, but remind me what you said? That you.
I said it's the owner's intention to replace the septic system at the other house. In fact, I've been looking at it, but it's not in this.
I got it.
Not in this
Okay,
project.
thanks.
Also, I'd like to let folks know that we do have a public hearing on this application, and if you wish to call in by telephone, the number to call to reach us is area code 518-761-8225. Are there any written comments, Laura?
So yes, there is a written comment from the Lake George waterkeeper. The waterkeeper recognizes a slight reduction in impervious cover to make the site compliant, as well as the replacement of the on-site wastewater system. However, we would recommend further mitigation measures for this project located in the critical environmental area to address runoff from the existing impervious surface and additional shoreline plantings to meet the intent of the town code for buffer reestablishment. Additional questions in reference to the replacement of the septic system. I'll start with the stormwater controls. The project should install stormwater controls to manage runoff from the existing impervious surfaces, which is the maximum allowable to meet the intent of the recently adopted stormwater regulation amendments by the Lake George Park Commission. The Lake George water quality cannot improve if runoff from the existing surfaces is not managed and treated, which is the reason of the Lake George Park Commission recently adopted this requirement that the town of Queensbury has yet to adopt. The planning board should condition site plan approval requiring management for runoff. The applicant should provide buffer planting on the northern shoreline in front of the proposed structure to meet the requirements. This application does not comply with the requirements for the fill system under Chapter 136. We've talked about septic systems.
That's regarding the septic, correct?
Correct. It is a recommendation of the waterkeeper that the Queensbury Planning Board table the application pending information for additional stormwater management for the existing impervious services and for additional shoreline buffer.
That it?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to address the planning board on this application? Not seeing anyone. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So concern about the existing impervious stormwater management. Is there stormwater management on this?
Well, there is stormwater management. And we have included it for the structure we're renovating. We've done eave trenching there. It's an old site, it's heavily vegetated, and yeah, they have managed stormwater. Do I have documented stormwater practices out of the book shown in here? No, they're not, but they don't have an issue. Shoreline is very well buffered. I've shown you photos. With his mention on the, we could probably add a little buffering along the, that one area he indicates. There's perennials there now, which is it's a deep perennial bed. They're not quite in full bloom yet, but, so if that would please the board, we could add a shrub line or something across there, but I showed you photos. I think if you look at them, the shoreline is well buffered.
Well, the buffering is increasingly a concern with some, especially with recent concerns we've had with the lake and algae bloom. So, yeah, if you could do some additional buffering in there, I think that would help, as you suggest.
Yeah, I'm thinking a shrub line across this area or so, which is the direct line here. There's a
Yeah.
nice perennial bed here. It's kind of, it's a little bit open up here. We could get some shrubbery across there.
Okay.
There's a nice, actually, this area is more buffered than this area. So, yeah, a little shrub line in there would certainly help, and we could do that.
Okay, good.
Where is that on the property? What's it?
That is in the northwesterly corner
Shoreline.
toward the shoreline.
Other questions, comments from members of the board?
That was my concern, was
Yeah.
that area, the shoreline buffer.
Never hurts to add a little buffer.
No,
No, so it's good to add more. Can't have too much.
Not 100 though, right?
Tom, did you consider removing more of the asphalt drive?
We felt we removed, we removed a significant portion. Did we consider removing more?
There's a lot of asphalt.
I got the applicant to agree to remove this amount of asphalt. It is a steep drive. I don't know if you went down there, but I drove it today. It's steep. It's very narrow. It's about this much wider than your car tires on the straights, and it's a little wider on the turns. And this area down below, it's a place to park cars. And so we're agreeable to remove the 400 square foot asphalt.
Yeah.
He really doesn't want to remove it anymore.
We haven't received any phone calls, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this application. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the board? All right, we have a resolution.
Yes. Motion to approve site plan 28-2021, Stephen A. Burnett, trustee, according to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested, granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through K, and L, additional shrubs added to the existing shoreline shrub buffer in the northwest corner of the shoreline.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion?
Brad, I was sure now.
What's that?
I said, Steve's not holding up. Brad seconds everything.
All right, Maria, can you hold the vote count for us, please?
Mr. Schaefer?
John? You, John?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Chakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes, you're all set.
Thank you.
All right, good luck. Take care.
Next on our agenda, we consider new business, and the first item is Wayne and Michelle Williams, Site Plan 31-2021. Laura?
So applicant proposes a new entryway addition of 27 square feet, addition to an existing entryway of the home. The existing home is 2,025 square feet with a floor area of 4,033 square feet. Project includes a new 20 square foot concrete patio, or not a patio, but a step. All construction occurs over existing hard surface. And the project is for the new enclosed entry area to the home.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Dennis McElroy from Environmental Design, representing Wayne and Michelle Williams for this site plan application at 80 Sealy Road. As Laura indicated, this is a fairly simple project, but it trips the requirement for site plan review as it technically adds floor area. So within the critical environmental area, it requires appearance here. So the best way to describe it probably is if you look at the photo that's included in the application, it's a bump out of the foyer area. They'd like to put a new door on, so while doing that, we'll extend out to the 3 feet, roughly 3 feet, 3.5 feet, the 8-foot width. That's the 27 square feet of new floor area, which really is just in the foyer. So we've provided the application materials and hope that this seems like a workable project to the board.
Okay, thank you. And this does trigger a public hearing, and I will let the public know that if you wish to comment on this application by telephone, you may call area code 518-761-8225. Questions, comments from members of the board on the 27-foot expansion?
Can you put 50?
Retirement for
That's good. Dennis, we want 50 more trees in front.
I was going to say, can we add about
Make it
100
100.
trees and shoreline buffer?
Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to comment on this application before the board tonight? Not seeing anyone. I'm not getting any phone calls. Are there any written comments, Laura?
There are no written comments.
Okay. Questions, comments from members of the board?
It's probably just a minor technicality. On the agenda, it lists it as 80 Sealy Road. And in our town notes, it's 90 Sealy Road.
And the actual address is 80.
It is,
So it's just a typo.
just so we don't give approval for 90 Sealy Road and.
No, and
Maybe they want a 27-foot addition too.
the resolution is 80 Sealy Road, so we're
Yeah.
okay.
All right, well, if there's no more questions or comments, and we haven't received a response from the public hearing section of the meeting, so we'll close the public hearing and ask if we're ready for a motion.
Yes, we are. A motion to approve site plan 31-2021, Wayne and Michelle Williams. Per the draft provided by staff, conditioned upon the following. 1, waivers request granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1 year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the outlined in the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with the resolution, including items A through G.
Okay, we have a resolution. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? Maria, can you call the vote for us again, please?
Mr. Chakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes, you're all set.
Great.
Happy
Thank
Would
you.
you like our copies of
Thank
these?
you very much. Sure.
So you enjoying your retirement?
Yes. Once I get there.
Good, Dan.
Shoot, I wasn't ready for you.
You don't want that.
Here we go.
Great.
You're welcome.
Good to see you again.
The next item on our agenda, also under new business, is Country Inn and Suites, David Mentor, site plan modification, 29-2021. Laura?
This project is for an installation of an 875 square foot concrete patio that contains 2 pergolas and an open patio area with a fire pit. And it's towards the front entryway of the existing Country Inn and Suites.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. Good evening.
Hi, Dave Mentor, Country Inn Suites. And this project really is part of our, it's a renovation that we're doing and you have to do routinely, and which generally would consist of everything inside. We're adding this because, you know, this is kind of what people expect in a mid-scale hotel, and our market has gotten pretty competitive, as you may be aware. And you know, we're just adding this, which is a pretty routine thing for this type of hotel. It's simply going to be, basically a patio with pergolas. It's going to allow us to give people extra space. We're finding that people are spending more time on property, especially after last year. Last year was just strange. I think this year will be also. You know, people and families the groups are getting bigger and spending more time on the property. This will allow us to accommodate them and give them space to have individual space, basically. We have a real pressure with breakfast. We've always served a breakfast, and people are pretty unreasonable at breakfast. More space is good. Restrooms and food. You can't mess with either one of those.
Yeah.
So that's basically where we're going with it. You know, we're just kind of trying to take advantage of the room that we have there and give them a little more, some more options in terms of spaces for people to be.
Okay. We also have a public hearing on this application, so I will remind people viewing our meeting on the YouTube channel that if they wish to comment by telephone, they may do so by calling area code 518-761-8225, and we'll open that public hearing for people. Is there anyone in the audience? There is no audience. So there's no, are there any written comments, Laura?
There are no written comments.
Okay. We'll give people a few minutes to call in if they wish. In the meantime, we'll open it up for questions, comments from members of the board.
I have a question. Under the pergola, is it going to be concrete?
Yes.
Cinder blocks?
Yeah, so they're going to be on top of the slab. It's going to be one slab, the whole thing. Uncovered, just open air structures.
I see you're removing some plantings. You're putting a few additional in?
Yeah, it's going to be very similar in terms of the characteristics of the plantings there. That's what we're removing, is that same type of burning bush in that area. And I was thinking about that as I was sitting back there, that drawing it in, I just drew in a couple, but actually, we may have a few more at that front section, just to kind of, not hide it, but just to kind of create that front barrier so it's not all open from the front. But really, that's everything that's there in front is some burning bushes. You know, we put some annuals in there each year, but you know, that's really the essence of it, is just that it's a planting area. So everything along the building obviously comes out. And I don't know if we're going to end up keeping some of those or just replacing them completely, because the ones that are there are pretty woolly at this point.
But there won't be any lessons there now, possibly more. Correct?
Not in the front section, no, correct. Where there'll be less is along the building, obviously. All those little evergreens are going to come out.
Yeah.
But it's, that planting space in front of it is going to be full.
And the only lighting being proposed is within the pergola
Yes.
shining down?
Those lights, yes.
Just the one?
Actually, there's 4 lights, 2 in each pergola.
Plus the fire.
Plus the fire. That'll be small, that'll be low. We'll have that low.
Can you see Martha's from that?
Not really, because that's the plantings that are in front of it. I mean, you're certainly high enough and you're kind of, but I think if you're on the sidewalk in front of it, yes. But if you're gonna be sitting down inside, probably not, because you'll have the plantings there. I mean, usually, the way we operate that is probably from 8:30 to 11. It'll be on, you know, and it's a gas fire pit, and then you just turn it off, you know,
Yeah, that's,
night's over.
Holiday Inn has one of those.
Yeah, everybody, you know,
They all
everybody's
have
got
them.
them.
They all have them now.
People
Everybody's
expect
gotta
it,
have
you gotta have it.
Yeah.
I would like to comment that the property looks like it's very well maintained.
So, thank you, yeah. Manager's doing a good job,
Yeah.
despite lack of help.
We have not received any phone calls or other comments, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Are there other questions, comments from members of the board? Are we ready to move forward?
I thought it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Very appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's not to like, right?
That's right,
I'm
yeah.
liking
Well-
it already.
All right, motion to approve site plan modification 29-2021, Country Inn and Suites, David Mentor. Further draft provided by staff condition upon the following. Waivers request granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter. 7th resolution, including items A through G.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Maria, can you call the vote for us again, please?
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Benzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Jackowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Trevor?
Yes, you're all set.
Next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Would you like these extra copies of the plans? You need to submit them to the town for final approval.
I apologize for the picture.
She said, I knew you were gonna do it.
Thank you, guys.
But I'll do
All
it
right,
the
yeah,
next
have a good
time.
evening.
I'll do it
Do you
next
want more?
I don't believe we have any other business before the board this evening. Unless someone says that we do, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.